That's so corny.
Yo. I'm trying so hard to do my best snug rendition. Welcome to the Corny Dads podcast. We're just a bunch of corny dads that do dope things for our dope children. I am the man of many hats. Some people call me Chico. These gentlemen call me Ace, but my children call me Papa.
Hey, Oz, catch me on TikTok at Corny Dad OJC.
Oh, you did a hezzy right there.
It was
Yeah.
Listen.
Yogi Den, Namaste. You already know the vibes.
And of course, we're missing one of our corny counterparts, but he's out there doing great work. My man, Snuggy H.
Snuggy H is out here being a daddy today.
Yeah, feel
right.
me?
Mentor, whatever you want to call it, he out here
Doing great things. All right, gentlemen, on this installment today, we're talking about the phrase man up and what it means to us as individuals, as fathers, as men. I'd like to pose a question today. What does masculinity mean to you? Like, outside of the formidable definition of masculinity. Yogi, take the
Start
lead.
with Yogi. It look like Oz is about to go right in.
No. Go ahead. Get busy.
So masculinity to me is the opposite. I would just say the opposite of toxic masculinity, right? Because when we bring up both of those terms, I think they go hand in hand, right? So I'm looking at I have to take it back to when I was younger and my father, right? My father was a gentleman that was dangerous. He was very, very dangerous, but he can control it. So when I think of masculinity, I think of someone that can be dangerous, but can control that urge to cause havoc or to, use the power that he has in an erratic way. I think that is what you talk about masculinity. And I think when we're talking about masculinity, we're talking about not overusing your power and your resources, right? Not because we understand that in a family you're looked at as the king or you're looked at as the leader of the household. Don't abuse that. Don't abuse that. Don't talk down to people, right? Don't use your force to harm others. Don't use your presence to scare people. You know what I mean? When it doesn't have to be. So I would think that just looking at my father, those three things that he was dangerous but was able to control, I think is a good definition for me for masculinity.
Okay.
Yeah, I could dig it. I think when we talk about masculinity, I think there's two forms of masculinity, right? You have healthy masculinity and you have toxic masculinity, right? But oftentimes when you hear the term man up, you're hearing more of the toxic version of what masculinity is. So for me, I think I'll break down what healthy masculinity is first. Healthy masculinity for me is a lot of the things that you said, but for me to summarize it up into three different words is vulnerability, is empathy, and is compassion. That's healthy masculinity. But then when you start talking about toxic masculinity, you have power, right? Which you just talked about, the abuse of power, right? Then you have toughness, right? You wanting to be overly aggressive. That's toxic masculinity. And then the third is anti-femininity. You understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
So now you're so masculine that now you're a womanizer. So those are the three toxic traits that I have pointed out that are toxic masculinity.
Understood.
Listen, I would agree with all two of you fine gentlemen right now. I mean, there's nothing more that I could add to it. It would be redundant for me to even try to contribute to that, but I would agree. How do we feel about the term toxic masculinity just being like a coin phrase now? Anytime a man exudes some kind of, masculine energy and it's saying, well, you're toxic, you have toxic masculinity. Like, how do we feel about that term being just so easily and rapidly used now?
How do you feel about it, Ace?
I mean, for me, I just feel like as men, we're gonna have points and periods of time where we're going to exude our masculinity.
Sure.
In a not a threatening or harming way, because
Define masculinity, because what does that mean? Because
For me-
you use the word to define the word. What does that mean?
okay, for me, as far as masculinity is more of exuding your presence with a generous and soft touch, but also knowing that you can, at any given point, if need be,
turn up. Facts.
That's what masculine. So it's a balance for me, right?
Sure.
So I think that in everything in life, you have to know when and where to implement both of those things. So that's what masculinity means to me. To overindulge in bravado or any of that, or any of those traits that are similar to those traits, then I think that's going overboard. So having a balance. Masculinity is having balance. Knowing how to be gentle,
sure,
but stern when need be.
Absolutely. And I think to your point, when you talk about vulnerability, I think that is key, because what we're seeing now is we're having, we're seeing grown men being quiet. When being quiet and not expressing how they feel about certain situations and experiences, especially when it comes down to the woman, right? Just allowing what was taking place to take place without saying something, right? And it almost seems like if I say something, then I'm looked at as I'm complaining, or I'm crying, or I'm moaning, or I'm groaning, and that's female qualities, right? That's female qualities, and I can't do that. So I just got to take it like a man, right? I got to man up. I just got to not say nothing. I just got to be the person that just takes the beatings, that just takes the emotional abuse, that it takes the physical abuse, that takes the verbal abuse. Because if I say something back now, I'm a bitch, or I'm just these names that are coming across as weak. Yes, weak is one of the biggest ones. You weak, you need to man up. So it's like you find strength in your vulnerability. Being able to speak up, and not just speak up and complaining and moaning and groaning, but being articulate in your words to let the counterpart know exactly what you do not expect. Boundaries, right? Pitting your boundaries up, letting them know this is the expectations that I have, and this is who I am. I know who I am, so we're not gonna go down that road. I think is one of the things that misconceptions of masculinity or toxic masculinity.
And I think it's important. This is something that I always express to my son. When you find a problem, immediately behind it, bring a solution.
Correct.
Yep.
Let's figure this out. Let's work through this. Because if all day you provided me with problems with no solutions, then it just looks like
now you're a complainer.
Now you're a complainer.
Yep.
And then at that point in time, then people could say, "Hey, you're just a whiner. You're just always out here crying." And I think in this time and age where everyone has an opinion, everybody's overly opinionated, it just becomes like you're just being a whiner. And now if you get aggressive and you start to get into defensive mode, then you're exuding toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
Because
when you're
that
reacting instead of responding.
Right.
We just talked about that last episode. Right?
Indeed. So now, when we talk about the phrase "man up," what is the time that you remember that the phrase "man up" was used against you?
Oh boy, I can't remember a time that it was actually used against me, but I've heard it so much in my adolescence, right? When we tell kids to man up, and I see it a lot in sports, right? When someone gets hurt, or they're really physically hurt, or even emotionally hurt after losing a game or something like that. The parents, typically the father, and we're seeing that a lot in the moms now too, telling their kids, their sons, to man up.
What does that mean, coming from a mom?
Yeah.
No, like seriously, what does that mean,
like,
coming from a mom?
when it's coming from and it's crazy. Like, no, seriously, it's wild. What does that mean exactly? And I don't know it. No one knows.
Mean? Like, Mom, what do you think it means? Because you're not a man.
Right. Seriously.
What do you think it means?
And you ask the question, where did you get that term from, and how was it being presented to you? Like,
for sure. Where did you hear it from?
Where did you hear it from?
And you're telling this kid to man up, and what they're essentially saying is, yo, stop crying.
Suppress your feelings.
Suppress your feelings. Be tough. You know what I'm saying? And suppress, I think, is probably the best word, right? So just literally take everything that happened to you, forget about it, put it down into your subconscious, and let it worry about it later when you start being aggressive to someone else, or you trying to figure out where all of these things are coming from in your life and when you're in adulthood.
So with that, it's funny that it's interesting that you said that about even women saying to their sons or significant others, man up. with a lot of single parent households, and when the woman is head of the household and there's boys in the house, and anything that transpires and they say man up, why do you think it's so important for a boy to have a male figure in the household, that if they come across a situation where a woman is telling them man up, that they can kind of not deflect, but
listen, I want to stop there, right? Because not every male is a man.
Right. That's true.
okay,
So you can have a male living in your house, but he's not a man.
okay, this is true.
So, you know, the term man up, like man and male, if you look up the definition, they're two totally different things.
Sure.
Okay.
Right? You're a male, you were assigned that biologically at birth.
Okay.
Right? That's the same way that there's a boy and then there's a man.
Okay.
Right? So I'm not even going to sit here in front and say that I've been a man my whole life. No, I have not been a man.
Yep.
You feel what I'm saying?
Right.
But society would have you believe that if you do certain things, you are a man.
If you're a certain age.
If you're a certain age, you hit 18, 21, right?
Yeah, man, right.
You get a driver's license, you a man now, right? 21, you can buy your first pack of cigarettes or some
You a
Black
man.
and Miles. You a
Wow,
man, right?
society's definition, how they
But
feel.
that's not necessarily true.
Absolutely.
I think we need to start to redefine in our community what a man is, right? And a man is not what society says it is by you being able to buy liquor or alcohol or whatever the thing is at a certain age. You know, if you look at certain religions, right? They have certain rituals that they do when you hit a certain age, because at that age they believe that you have the knowledge and you have the
development. You're
developed enough for you to choose the right path, right?
Yep.
Which isn't the case.
Which
at
isn't
all.
really
Right.
the case, right?
No.
It's beautiful, right? we've participated in some, right? It's a beautiful event, but at the end of the day, I think it all goes back to, you know, the education in the village that you're in, right? What are some of the values? What are some of the knowledge that's being instilled in you in order to make you a man, right? Those are the things that really matter. Like where are those things, right? Like I speak for myself. I haven't personally become conscious of who and what I am and actually realize my own powers, right? Until what? 4 years ago, and I've been on a 8, 9, 10 year therapy journey.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying?
Right.
So while I was, according to the United States of America, I could be charged as a man.
As a man,
Yeah.
right.
For these certain things,
Yeah.
right? But I wasn't fully developed, nor did I really understand who, what, where, when, and how.
Yeah.
And that's just me speaking for myself. I'll let you guys speak for
I
y'all.
think that's right. Your brain is not fully developed into
25?
yeah,
21 to 25.
Yeah, and
Something
whereas though you can literally your frontal cortex, right, where you can like around like 18 or something like that, where you can actually make real life decisions, like and really think of it and be conscious of the decisions that you're making, right, and then so. Yeah, we got to think about it from that. And I would say one of the most important lessons, I think lessons, when you're growing up, you get taught how to be a man as well. I'll give you one of the best lessons I've gotten was in high school from Mr. Malik Alvin, actually, which is a prominent basketball player in our city for sure. So Malik, if you're watching, you taught me a very, very key lesson. We were at a game, right? We were playing, and it was about to be the half, and we're on a fast break. Now, Malik can score. He would get like 25, 30 points a game, right?
Yeah,
Pure scorer, right? That was in my role, right? I was like, get the rebounds, pass it to Malik, right? That was my role. So we were on a fast break, and he's coming down the court, and I'm on head of the pack, and he looks at me, no lie, I can't think this. He looks at me, looks me off, and then he goes and shoots a jumper because it's like 1 second to go. He misses.
Ooh.
Right? So we're walking into the locker room. I can't forget this ever. Walking into the locker room, and I look at him, right? And I say, yo, why didn't you pass me the ball? Like, just like that. Like, I'm open, I can make this shot. And he looked me dead in my face, and he said, what was you going to do with it?
If he gave you the ball.
If he gave me the ball, what was I going to do with it? And I thought to myself immediately, not anything that you would have done with it. So I think one and I had to carry that.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was the conversation. That was over after that.
Yeah.
And one of the things I learned from that point on is, yo, keep your mouth shut sometimes, right? And just be honest with yourself and who you are, right? Just don't go out there portraying to be somebody that you're not, because you may be put in that position where you have to actually be that, and if you're not, you get exposed, right? So I think that was just one of the most important that Malik taught me. I'm sure he just wanted to get the points, but I'm sure, I had to take that on a chin, and I still remember that from this day.
So indeed, it's about picking your battles and know, like you said earlier,
be honest and truthful.
When and where the time to practice that aggression, and sometimes to be like, you know what, I'm just gonna fall back on it. So
there was a word that I actually hated. Anytime somebody would say the word, I'd be like, get it out of here. Humble.
Humble. Be humble.
I used to be so upset when somebody say, humble. Like, anytime the word came up, humble, I was like, here you go. Like, you don't understand who you are. Like, humble. I was like, no, be humble. I was like, no.
And why is that? Why did you not like the word humble?
Honestly, because of where the word actually derived from, especially for our culture, right? Like, be humble, right? That's what they used to tell the slaves, right?
Be passive.
Yeah, be passive. Continue to be humble. Where I feel like, I always felt like we had an opportunity to go and get it, right? We don't have to be humble. We're not slaves anymore. We ain't shining shoes, right? We have an opportunity to go and get it. So,
absolutely.
So don't put your fears on me,
for sure.
because you want to be humble. Yeah. You be humble.
That's an excuse.
That's an excuse
for you not to do shit.
Yeah, you be humble. I'm gonna march out here and do what I think is right.
Gotcha.
Right, but now as an adult, as a more mature man, now I understand. No, being humble means that you ain't got to jump. You ain't got to swing at every pitch.
Just the right.
You
pitch.
ain't got to take every shot.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
You don't have to. But there was a point in time where I thought that was absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
Like, it's necessary. I'm on go. But again, that was me exerting toxic masculinity, right? Why? Because that's what I saw. That's what I knew. That was the only thing that I knew, right? So, again, man. So that's that to me is was real. So the humble part, I think, now
another one's a big one.
Now I have a newfound respect.
We get to change our minds.
Yeah,
Oh, absolutely.
Always.
And you can't listen. If you want to put me in a box, that's you.
Yeah.
Tomorrow I might feel differently about something.
Yeah.
I might feel differently about saying 24 hours.
No, seriously,
course,
you're allowed to.
In 10 minutes, I may be like, oh, you know what? You were right, bro.
It is like that. So I also pose a question.
No. Let me jump in real quick, right?
Go ahead.
And I'm going to ask you this, right?
All right. Shoot.
Since you like the word nuclear, right?
Yeah, that's my
Yo,
favorite.
you've been watching,
family.
you know this man use nuclear all the time,
Hey,
right?
Marv, please drop a bomb
using
for me. Drop a nuclear bomb. There you go.
A nuclear bomb.
The nuclear bomb. Yeah. I love it.
All right, so how has your nuclear family supported you in your manhood journey?
I think it's giving me perspective. It's giving me perspective and also knowing that I'm dealing with. It's giving me perspective and let me know that I'm dealing with so many different personalities and how that I can't address or go at every situation the same. I have to always be pivoting, like how you had that epiphany, like, no, I don't like the word humble, but then you're like, you know what? Nah, I'm understanding what it is now, and I'm changing my
approach,
perspective and my approach on it. So with that, I feel like it's adding value to me, to myself as a man and my nuclear family, because it's allowing me to know that I'm growing, I'm changing, I'm moving towards the individual and the man that I want to be for my nuclear family.
Marv, clap. He used it
Clap for
right.
that family. Also, I have to set a precedent, right? I feel like I have to set a precedent not only for my family, but for my son. Like, I have the conversations and I sit with him and I say, hey, listen, when I'm not here, you the man of the house. You are the one that's going to be the one that's going to be overseeing. I mean, obviously there's things that you can't do, but once I'm not here, I guess I use the phrase "man up" in a different form. I say, you're gonna be the man up. You're gonna have to man up and be the man that's gonna step in, fill my shoes, and hold it down. So I think in that sense, that's how I would use it in that sense.
Den, you heard what he said. What you think about that?
Tough joint, right? Because when my dad did pass, I took that same thought process and I abused it. So when I say about that was when my dad passed away, I automatically thought that I was the man of the house now, which wasn't the truth, right? I was no way, shape, or form in that suit of armor to be what he was, right? To be anything like my father was. Because, you know, early on, what had happened is I was the protector of my brothers and sisters. So there was a fight, there was an issue. My dad like, yo, you know, you gotta go handle that, right? I don't care how big he is, how tall he is. You go punch him in the face, and then what you do?
He was grooming.
You run right back to the house, and who gonna be there? He gonna be there.
Okay.
You just run right behind. He gonna chase you. You're faster. He's fat. All right. So you get down to the house. You get down to the house, and I'll be there. You run behind me. So you know that's what would happen. Once he passed away, I thought, hey, I can do this again. But I was in no way, shape, or form ready to do that. And my family checked me on that, right? Mainly, I would say my sister. She was like, ain't nobody following you, bro. You not him. I want you to understand. Shout out to you're not him. And I am him. Yo, my name is the same. You know what I mean? He's been grooming me since I was younger, but I wasn't ready. I was not ready. So it was things that I had to learn. My brother was just coming up, and so some tests I had to go through. I was in Kutztown University, and my brother was on his way up. That was the first test. I had to make sure he was straight. I had to work with him, walk with him to make sure he was okay. Failed that test. He didn't make it through, right? I almost didn't make it through, right? So I'm going through all of these tests. Now you got to understand, my mama still she needs help. I couldn't help her. I didn't have the tools necessary to help them, even though I was groomed. I thought I was being groomed for this, but I wasn't ready. So it was so many things I had to go through. I would say probably I just started getting the respect from my sister probably a year ago into it a little bit. You understand what I'm saying? Where I'm like, she like, okay, I see you doing a little bit here. And I think the biggest part was I had to stop trying to be him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had to be myself. I had to follow where I was going, trying to be somebody else. And she was right, you not him, buddy.
No.
You know? So when I stopped trying to be him and be myself and be better than him, which he asked me to do, is and not even try to be better than him. I didn't try. He just was like, yo, what's going to happen? You just keep doing the disciplines. And now I'm getting that respect from my nuclear family.
Drop a bomb to that, Mom.
Yeah, nuclear family. Now that I'm looked at as that person that can step into those shoes.
And I guess for me, it's one of the things that I'm very big on is I try not to put that type of pressure on JC. I want you to be a boy as long as you could possibly be a boy. You know, the conversations that I have with him is that, you know, at some point, you know, you will be. But in this present time, I just want you to just be happy, be a boy, right? And some of the things that I'm instilling in him is like, for example, like the 3 Ps, right? What is your responsibility to your family, to a woman, right? Is to profess, protect, and provide, right? Those are some of the conversations that we're having. Hey, how do you know? And you guys see him; he's here all the time. It's teaching them about business, teaching him about being relentless, teaching him about these kind of things. But as far as telling my son to man up, I have not been in a situation where I've told him to man up. He plays sports. He gets hurt. His feelings get hurt. Thank God he's never been physically hurt, but his feelings get hurt. But when his feelings get hurt, what I tell him to do is I tell him to suck it up, right? And suck it up in a way that says, have you identified what went wrong?
So you can fix it.
If you have identified what went wrong, then we can fix it. But if you're just being pure lazy or you didn't do your best, then that's something else that we need to figure out. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So for me, it's not man up, but it's like, no, let's identify the source of the hurt. Let's identify the source of the pain, and let's nip that in the bud. If you don't, because you don't want to feel this ever again, right? And if you don't want to feel this ever again, then there's certain steps that we have to take. And that to me is not a version of telling your child to man up, but it's about critical thinking, right? And emotional intelligence, right? And you being a student of the sport, whatever it is, like you being a student of life, and you being able to identify what the source of your pain is at the moment. And as long as you can identify what the source of your pain, what the source of your hurt is, then you can actually do whatever it takes to change that.
I love that. See, and I'll take it a step further, as when you're talking about once you identify it, and we look at it, because you say if a kid is on a football field and he gets hurt and he comes to the sideline and you're there, you got about 5 to 10 seconds to do, it's real quick
snap.
Yeah. So you get there and we say, hey, what happened out there? Yo, I got hurt, blah, 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 blah. Okay, we identify that first, right? Don't just go suck it up and man up, right? You identify the pain, right? We have to, right? So that way you know that they know that you know that and you feel that empathy, right? And then we say, how can we use that pain to transmute it to go out there to be better, right? How can we use that? How are you feeling? Angry. How can we use that now to go out there and transmute it to be a better football player?
Redirection.
Absolutely. Use it. You're taking a negative emotion and you're into a positive emotion, channeling it and moving forward. So yes, absolutely. Identify first.
Life is gonna deal us blows that we expect and blows that we don't expect.
Absolutely.
Right? So knowing and understanding that, I think, some of the work that we're doing, right? The meditation, yoga, the ability to find self, the ability to be one with self. If a young man or an adult does not find that path or find their way to self sooner rather than later, then you will always find toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity is shown in a variation of ways, right? It's shown in a variation of ways, right? But I think our responsibility is to provide them with tactics and ways to become healthy in their masculinity, right? Learning to recognize and regulate their feelings, right? That's finding self. Speaking about your needs and your feelings, right? Not silencing yourself. Being able, you have every right to communicate your needs, right? Discussing gender roles and coming to a mutual beneficial point of what a man does and what a woman does. I believe in equal pay. I believe in all of these things that women are asking for. I absolutely believe in it. But there are certain things that us as men, we need to continue to instill in these boys who will eventually become men. Right?
Absolutely.
Holding doors, pulling out chairs, right?
Gentlemen.
Being like not cursing, right? Easy on the swears in front of women, right? Those are things that gentlemen, right? That healthy masculinity provides. Because I don't have to curse in order to get my point across. It's aggression. I don't have to do all that. I'm cool. I don't gotta curse. Right. So these are certain things like, because guess what? I hear my son on his system, boy. Sometimes I just gotta ignore it because I'm like, you know what? This is him and his homies. Because when I'm with my homies, I know who I am. Right. So I just let that be. So just man. It's about being the best role model that you could possibly be. I felt like you had a great role model. I feel like you and we both lacked in role models. But I will also say that there was some good people in my life, right? They had shortcomings, but nonetheless, they were good people. They were good people. I ain't gonna shout you out. You know who you are.
They gonna be looking at TV like, oh.
Yeah, I know who y'all are. But we gonna save that for another segment. You dig?
Nah, that's important. And I wanna go back on your 3 Ps, and I love that. But there's 3 Ps that I like too. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. So I think it's always
the alliteration was on key.
So I think it's always important that with our children and with our community, with our village, we have to keep pushing each other forward to let us know, like, these cultural norms that were here once before, it ain't it.
Unlearn and relearn.
Unlearn and relearn, man. We are in a different time. These kids have limitless access to information. Remember encyclopedias?
Yes. Yeah, man.
Yes. Them dusty books ain't nowhere around no more.
They're gone.
You spoke of in the previous episodes of your daughter's vernacular now. My son's vernacular is crazy, bro. He be turning and be like, what'd you say? Alexa, what does that? So we have to understand, like, we are dealing with Lamborghinis and Ferraris now. We're not dealing with these kids that, and I always say it all the time, like, see, you'll be talking to me, I'm like, man, you think JC, you think he $1 short and a day late? Listen, man, give it to him straight, give him to raw, because these kids, they're observant and they know. So if we're mindful of the things that we say and the thoughts that we project out there, these kids will know that, all right, like you said, like the download, they'll know like, all right, I'm going to get this download eventually.
When my man talking about it?
Yeah,
Every time about spirituality, man, he talking about getting downloads.
Hey, listen, but you know what? If the viewers out there are keeping up, they'll know what that download means. They'll definitely know what that download means. Any announcements that need to be made? Anything going on with Corny Dads outside of the podcast or anything of that nature?
I think Corny Dads is actually growing. I would like to give a huge shout out to the followers that we have on IG, TikTok, Facebook. The support has YouTube. The support has been tremendous. To be honest, the more that you guys reach out to us, the more that you guys communicate to us, the more it feeds us to want to continue to talk about these topics. Because talking about these topics, they aren't easy, right? Because we are actually, opening up, private conversions that men have, right? I think there's a book that called Men Suffer in Silence, right? Right? And if you've ever been to a barbershop, shouts out to B-Hop, Infinite Styles in Paterson, New Jersey. There's a lot of great conversations that happen there, and there's a whole lot of great conversations that happen in barbershops all over the U.S. But we're not in a barbershop. But we are bringing you guys a lot of barbershop conversations, a lot of kitchen countertop conversations, right? A lot of conversations that we would not normally have on a platform like this, right? Yep. Opening it up to the world, because being on social media, it goes beyond your locality, right? We've opened ourselves up to the world. So thank you. Please definitely reach out to us. If you have topics that you would like for us to address, please reach out. If you have comments, whatever. If we have some great sponsors now. But if you are looking for a sponsorship opportunity, please reach out to us. DM info@cornydads.com. That's our email address. Just reach out.
All right. Well, with that being said, gentlemen, stay corny.
Please stay corny.
That's so corny.